Yes, it's Mamdani time. I'm very excited. This is the monologue I wanted to do the entire vacation because I just kept thinking about this over and over and over again. Like, how can this be happening in our country, in the financial capital of the world? Of course, Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral election back in November and is going to be ushered in. You might think, well, you know, he won the election. Sure, he was a firebrand when he was out there on the campaign tour, but what's he really going to be like as a mayor? He tried to make that very, very clear in his opening speech where he talked about the warmth of collectivism.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
It is unbelievable that anyone is falling for this after what has happened in our history. The frigidity of rugged individualism, the thing that built America. He's describing it as frigid and cold and awful, an awful experience. And then the warmth, the warm blanket of collectivism. It's not even hiding it. It's not even the collectivism, the warmth of working together. He's not even using a euphemism. He's just coming out and saying it. He's just saying, hey, let me just pitch this to you, Marxism. Now, of course, the warmth of collectivism is very, very well known. They wrote a great book about it. It's a little long. It's called The Black Book of Communism. And honestly, I'm thinking that maybe it's time for a revised cover of this. I'm just going to pitch this to the authors. Here it is. The Warmth of Collectivism. Wouldn't this be a great new title for the Black Book of Communism? Which, by the way, if you don't have it, you should just have a copy of that book. So you can always refer to it because it is an endless telling of all the horrors of the world of communism and what it has done to us over the past 100 years. We're talking about, you know, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people dead, right? Like, we're talking 9 figures of people killed by this philosophy that the people of New York were just like, you know, let's try that here. What could possibly go wrong? By the way, if you're wondering what could possibly go wrong, let me illustrate it here with you and a graph. We brought this up earlier this week. It's my favorite graph of the week. It is a comparison of the GDP per capita from 1931 to 2022 between two countries, Venezuela and Poland. And what you see here is when, you know, communism existed in Poland, it is well behind what we saw in Venezuela. Venezuela is kicking its butt basically for many years until you'll notice the Berlin Wall falls and communism, the Soviet Union falls. And Poland says, okay, we're done with the communism thing. Let's try something else. They move toward capitalism. And you see the GDP of the country skyrocket from about $7,000 up to $35,000. And yes, of course, these are inflation adjusted. We don't screw around on this program with that sort of nonsense. On the other hand, look at the Venezuela chart. It's much higher than Poland. It goes about flat in 1980 and kind of like mulls along there. And then Hugo Chavez comes into power and you see it tank from about $20,000 of GDP to about $4,000 of GDP. By the way, that little bump at the very, very end, if you zoom way in on the Venezuela line with your eyeballs, what you will see is a little tiny turnaround at the very, very end. And that's when they got rid of a very small percentage, but a small percentage of some of the socialist nonsense they were attempting. And now we're saying, hey, let's bring that approach right to the financial capital of the world. How's that going to work out for everybody? Mamdani is making Democrats' communist fantasies come true. And that is exactly what is happening in New York. That was one of the things about that speech. I could have honestly just played you clip after clip after clip of that particular speech. I wanted to expand it a little bit on Mamdani since that was a little while ago. But he was talking also about like, hey, I ran as a democratic socialist. I'm going to govern as a democratic socialist. And a lot of times you see, you know, because when you take out the results of socialism, to some, it can appear like a feel-good program, right? We want to make sure everybody's equal. We want to make sure everybody's doing well. We want to make sure those rich people that are just, they're the bad guys. We're going to get rid of them. Bring in the good guys, the normal people like you. Everything's going to be great. Working class, workers of the world unite. These slogans worked on people for a reason, right? Because they do feel warm. We know what the results are, of course. But usually what happens when someone in the United States gets into office, even if they ran on some of that feel-good nonsense, at the end of the day, they make it clear, like, in reality, I'm going to, I'm sure we're going to be a little bit left, but we're not going to govern like socialists, obviously. That's not what Zohran Mamdani is saying. We'll see what the results are. But I think as you see his staff come into play, you sort of understand the types of things he might be planning to do. I would say to you is probably the best thing, not for you, but to you. What is he going to do to you? Let me give you, and this is a very strange development in the Mamdani campaign. I don't fully understand it, but he would sign up staffers, and instead of, normally what you do with a staffer, most campaigns, they don't even know about it, right? These are people that interact with the media. They interact with, certain programs. They have low-level jobs, some medium-level jobs, some high-level jobs, but they're not like public-facing all that often. But what Mamdani did is every time you hire somebody, you just put out like baseball cards for them. It looks like a signing ceremony, like you just signed a new center fielder. Almonte da Costa with her signature below it, and she's sitting there, and Mamdani with this just goofy smile there, and she's from Queens, by the way. They put the little jersey next to her. Anyway, what do you need to know about Almonte da Costa? Well, some interesting things. I think you might be interested, particularly if you happen to be a Jew. Because you might have noticed Mamdani not really a fan of the Jews, kind of a more pro-Hamas guy. His picture was taken with a Hamas jersey next to him. That's a totally different story. But here is this one. She tweeted this back in 2011, money-hungry Jews. Shaking my head. Can you believe these money-hungry Jews? Obviously, basically at the top of her LinkedIn, if you're trying to get hired by Zohran Mamdani. She also tweeted this, woo, promoted to the upstairs office today, working alongside these rich Jewish peeps. How could you not hire her after all of this? Then you've got this, for so long, power has been in the hands of men and or white people. It has brought us ruin. I have my problems with the United States of America. There's a lot of things that happen in this country that I don't appreciate. However, I would not describe it as ruin. You know why? Because I'm an American, first of all. I'm proud of the country. I actually think it's the best country that's ever been created. I think the results in this country are better than any country that has ever been created. That doesn't mean I'm happy with everything, but certainly would not describe it as ruinous. But I guess if your goal is to make people who are male and white have horrible lives, I suppose, in theory, you could see it that way. Also, she tweeted this. This is 2016. This was a harsh blow, but it's not the first time this country has let me down. It's important that white people feel defeated. I make this point often, and I think it's an important one. It's really a point that's not for you, because most likely you're a conservative or a libertarian or just a constitutionalist, and you're sitting around here thinking, like, I see the world somewhat similar. I see some of you might disagree with me on a bunch of stuff, but that's fine. But you probably aren't a hardcore leftist. But I make this point to leftists all the time, which is, if you're worried about whether maybe you're making a racist point yourself, change the colors. Read these tweets the other way around. It's important that black people feel defeated. Would you be comfortable saying that out loud? Does it feel racist to you if someone did say that? If a white official who worked for Donald Trump said it's important that black people feel defeated, would you feel good about that? Would you think they were a racist? My guess is that you would. Now we got another baseball card here for you. I don't know. I've never seen the name CEA. It seems like more of a government agency. But Sia, maybe? Or you know what? I'm just going to, how about Che? Let's just call her Che Weaver. Che Weaver is the new baseball card here. She's from Brooklyn. She's got, it's weird, Mamdani has the exact same smile. It's almost like it's kind of not, it's sort of disingenuous because he's doing it all the time no matter what he's saying. But that was the tool to get you to vote for him. He was trying to fool you into believing he was just a smiley guy. And what could he possibly do? How could he harm you at all? He's just smiley. Well, Che doesn't think that you're going to be harmed. Che is very much on board with all of the Mamdani proposals, why she has this big high-profile gig with her own baseball card. And she has some interesting tweets in her past as well from 2019. 2019, not 1984, but 2019. Private property, including and kind of especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy masquerading as wealth-building public policy. Owning a home is white supremacy. These are the sorts of people that Zohran Mamdani has been able to search out in our public. People who believe crazy nonsense. Put them right into power, right? This is the type of thing that you put right on your resume if you happen to be someone who wants to be hired or you want to get hired by Zohran Mamdani. Che, our good friend Che Weaver, also in 2018 tweeted this: impoverish the white middle class. Is poverty good? Impoverish the white middle class. Home ownership is racist, a failed public policy. And I want to focus a little bit more on the front of that because the second half is kind of the same thing she said earlier. But impoverish the white middle class. Sure, you can focus on white. And we know you can focus on white because Che Weaver herself focused on white by putting little asterisks, little stars around the word white. In other words, saying, focus on this word. Really put the emphasis on white. She wanted you to focus on white. But I want you to focus on something else. Because it's really easy for us all to sit back and say, hey, Elon Musk, let's take his money. Hey, Peter Thiel, let's take his money. He's too rich. Donald Trump, he's a rich guy. Let's take all of his money as well. It tests really darn well when you have a little class warfare attached to your policy and you say, those evil rich people, they have boats and they have planes and they have big 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom apartments in New York City and skyscrapers, and they're bad and I don't like them and we should take their things because you deserve their things more than they do. That's really easy. By the way, that's awful. If you have that feeling, you're terrible, okay? Peter Thiel and Elon Musk earned their money. It's theirs. It's not yours to take. Even if you think, but I want it really bad. I know that feels like an argument to you on the left, but it's not. It's not a good point. It's their money, whether they have 1, 2, 3, 4 commas in their net worth. It doesn't matter. You don't get any of it, okay? But that doesn't test that well, to be honest with you. My opinion on that. When you say billionaires are good, a lot of people just don't like that sort of talk. But that's why I want you to focus on that tweet one more time, not on what she wanted you to look at, which was white. Obviously, we can all agree white people should be punished. That's the only way we should run a society. On skin color. Great idea. It's been tried before, by the way. Didn't work out all that well, but let's not look at that. What I want you to look at in that tweet is not the word white, but the word middle. This isn't about billionaires. It's not about the upper class. It's not about your rich neighbor that has a nicer McMansion than you. She's talking about the middle class. She wants people, the working class of this country, to be impoverished. And Zohran Mamdani's like, sign her up. How do I get her in this organization as fast as possible? And by the way, let me look back at her baseball card here. Her job, executive director of the mayor's office to protect tenants. Now, I guess in some ways you would say at least she's not dealing with homeowners directly. Of course, she is dealing with landlords directly and property owners directly by punishing them. But I guess she's only dealing with tenants as far as her title goes. We also have this wonderful, if you didn't think the tweets were enough, here she is explaining in detail what she wants done to you evil white homeowners in this country.
I think the reality is that for centuries, we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good.
Yeah.
And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
You know that thing that you bought and you raised your kids in, you built the white picket fence around? She just shoulder shrugged that for you. Some white people of color, whoever's owning a home, whatever. They're not going to be able to do that anymore because we're going to require you to think about it differently. That's the world we're living in right now. As if this stuff hasn't been tried. It's absolutely incredible. By the way, I have a good first target for your white homeowners that you want to, go after and take their property away. How about mommy? The mom of this particular woman, Che Weaver. She said, of course, owning a home fuels white supremacy. She has a $1.6 million house in Tennessee. Is that okay? Does mommy get to keep her house? Usually that's the way that works, by the way. But also, I could also see a situation where she hates her mom. Couldn't you? Couldn't you just see a situation where she hates her white mom? Anyway, if you were worried that this is just a couple of people, sure, they've got jobs that are somewhat influential in this administration, but maybe Zohran Mamdani doesn't think that way. Just in case you were worried, here's his actual policy. He wants to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Again, I ask you to change the color in that sentence. Would you feel comfortable saying you wanted to shift the tax burden to blacker neighborhoods? Would that be okay? Zohran, would that be okay? At least Zohran wants to let people they can keep their houses. We just have to tax them out of them eventually. By the way, he's got other idiotic policies in case you've missed some of them. His World Cup DEI promise. This is the latest nonsense out of this idiot's mouth, as Outkick writes. Here is Mamdani talking about the tickets to go watch soccer.
What we are seeing, I had a New Yorker the other day come up to me and ask me if there was any way I could help him get World Cup tickets because he was saying that the cost that he saw for a game was $600, right? This is increasingly out of reach. We have made what used to be a working class game into a luxury experience. And there are too many for whom it doesn't matter where the World Cup is being played in the world. They know where they're going to watch it. It's TV. And we want to ensure that there are more experiences available to each and every New Yorker.
Imagine you have to watch a soccer match on TV. You can't go. That's because it costs too much. Well, events do cost a lot sometimes. You could watch, by the way, tons of soccer for free. You just don't get to watch the World Cup for free. You can go walk around to parks all over America. They're playing soccer. Unfortunately, by the way, because it's been the downfall of our civilization. By the way, people we're in ruins. Too much soccer. Readers added context to the video, by the way, with a community note on X. Apart from the fact that the mayor has no influence over FIFA pricing policy, there are no games in New York City. The New York-New Jersey Stadium is in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So he's an idiot on top of being an idiot. Also, if you were wondering, remember the woman that he hired who was like, hey, I don't like Jews. Remember that woman? Well, you won't be surprised that one of the first things that, of course, Mamdani did was revoke Israel-related executive orders signed by Adams. This is one of the revoked orders blocks all city agencies from divesting from Israel, and the other expanded definition of anti-Semitism to match the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, which classifies some criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic. Mamdani defended his orders, telling reporters that some Jewish organizations in the city also shared his concerns with the expanded definition of the term. So one time he likes Jews when they agree with him. Every other time, whatever. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. Of course, this is all, there's anti-Semitic policies, there are horrible, just generalized domestic policies he's implementing, and of course the economic ones. When you're talking about communism and socialism, it is very, very key to economics. And we're now seeing this happen in California. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of this coming the way of New Yorkers as well. The billionaire peril, or the political peril of the California billionaire tax. What California's trying to do is tax your wealth. If you're a billionaire, they're just going to take 5% of your wealth. And of course, all the billionaires, before this happens, obviously will flee the state. They're not going to give 5% for no reason to the state. If they get $1 out of that, I'll be surprised, frankly, if it passes. But these are the types of policies that Zohran Mamdani wants to implement. And, again, We were all disappointed in the idea of Zohran Mamdani becoming mayor of New York City. It's a really bad thing for the country. Now, of course, the second place guy was Andrew Cuomo, who is awful. You may have heard this. Andrew Cuomo is awful. .com. You may know that. There were no good options, at least not ones that were considered by New Yorkers. The point of this, though, the one good thing that comes out of Zohran Mamdani winning is that we can remind people all the time that this is what the left is. At its core, the left is Zohran Mamdani. There are people on the left who will try to do the same things at a slower pace than Zohran Mamdani. There are plenty of people on the left who will not actually publicly tweet the fact that they want white people to be impoverished and they want Jews to go away. There are plenty of people on the left who will tell you those things. But in reality, so many of them believe those ideas. They just don't tweet them. They just don't spit them out like Zohran Mamdani does. So watching him attempt this giant experiment in the city is going to be a fascinating thing to observe. At Blaze TV, we've built a home for some of the strongest, smartest voices in conservative media, people who tell it like it is. It's everything the networks won't show you, delivered on your terms, on any device, at any time. And it starts at just $8 a month. So if you're ready to keep winning, go to blazetv.com/Stu. Subscribe today. Save $20 off your annual plan now. It's blazetv.com/Stu.